Thank you for honoring us with your presence today as we honor Jasmine Moran. I'm sure that she is smiling right now as she sees all of you as we know that you have seen her entire lifetime, and that means so much to us. I'm Marilyn Moran Townsend. I'm Jasmine's eldest daughter. And it is my privilege now to introduce Rabbi Mark Fitzerman and Rabbi Dan Kamen of the synagogue congregation B'nai Emunah, where Jasmine and Melvin were married in 1953.
Each of us has a name. Each of us has a name given by God and given by our parents. Each of us has a name given by our stature and our smile, and given by what we wear. Each of us has a name given by the mountains and given by our walls. Each of us has a name given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Each of us has a name given by our sins and given by our longing. Each of us has a name given by our enemies and given by our love. Each of us has a name given by our celebrations and given by our work. Each of us has a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. Each of us has a name given by the sea and given by our death.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi Lo Echsar. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to water in places of repose. God renews my life. He guides me in right paths as befits his name. You spread a table for me in the full view of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My drink is abundant. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord now and forever. Friends, over the days ahead, many people will tell Jasmine's story. It's a process that began years ago with articles and interviews and book-length accounts. She deserved that attention and deserves it still. I see her experience, I see her life as a kind of shining, dramatic, theatrical arc. What began as a hard-scrabbled childhood far away, struggle and frugality and privation and loss, ended here in her adopted state. The oddity is that it did not originate in Oklahoma with its long experience of tough beginnings. At the end, I would say with you that she came to be treated as a legend. She was Jasmine Moran. In marquee letters, a founder, a benefactor, a great lady of the state. She was surrounded by people who understood her worth, her way of uplifting the whole of her circumstance. If she dreamed a dream, she would translate a vision into a fact. She could put achievements on the ground where things really begin to matter. There was quality in how she stood, how she spoke, and she had a husband who saw her as the great treasure of her life. I say all of this with one important caveat. The only person who didn't subscribe, who would never have countenanced the great lady theory, was Jasmine Moran, the great lady herself. As you have seen, it's all here in the pictures of her life. She stands next to Melvin in one, in the first flush of love, in a prim English collar and a black velvet headband. Somehow the headband becomes a tiara. She comes to Oklahoma, where she sits enthroned in Seminole, except the throne is Melvin himself, who leans into Jasmine in every picture and wraps himself around her like the arms of a chair. She stands with him and her children, ramrod straight, a regal presence in the life of her family. All she lacks is a little cloud of corgis at her feet. But then there are the pictures from the middle of the last decade. I know 3 of them, as some of you do as well. They're a kind of triptych of her moods. In the first 2, she's her expected self, her hair swept back into informal waves. But there is nothing grand about these pictures. She has not prettied herself for the camera. She is instead a kind of rancher's wife on a windy porch. And then there's the 3rd picture in that series. With a kind of slapdash flourish, she sticks out her tongue and gives full expression to whatever she was feeling that day. She is theatrically, teasingly dismissive of something, even if we cannot know the target, and she breaks into irresistible informality. I love that picture, and the way all of us love Jasmine. It's a vivid image of electric energy, frank, unguarded, and fully present. May the memory of the righteous be for a blessing now and always. Friends, would you rise, please?
El Malrachamim Shochein Mamromim Hamitzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Shechina Bemalot Kedoshim Torim Kezorek Yamaschirim Et Nishmat Ruth Bat Avraham Besara Shalach Leolama Beganen Tehei Menuchata Hana Baal Rachamim Hastirecha Beseter Knafecha Leolamim Utzor Bitzorayim Et Nishmata Renayu Nachlata Vetanuach Beshalom Al Mishkava Venomar Amen. El Mother Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Ruth by Avraham Sarah, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us together say, Amen. And now we continue with the Mourner's Kaddish, recited in the traditional Aramaic. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chilutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yomachon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'me'amaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Vitadar, vitalev, vitalal, shemei de kudsha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace on this universe make peace for us, for all Israel, for all of humanity, to which we say together, Amen. You may be seated.
Lana Reynolds, president of Seminole State College, is going to be our first of several wonderful speakers. Lana has rolled out the red carpet for our family for many years, and especially in this last week, and we are so appreciative and grateful. Lana.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm extremely honored to be asked to speak today. Jasmine Moran has been a wonderful friend to Seminole State College and to me personally. She loved this college and she helped its students. The influence she and Melvin have had on the growth and development of this college is unparalleled. They were recognized in 2003 by the SSC Educational Foundation with its Founders Award for their many contributions. I'm so thankful that this beautiful portrait commissioned for that occasion will continue to hang in this room as we daily celebrate student success, enjoy fun campus events, and host scores of community forums, parties, concerts, and banquets. The Morans have consistently and constantly supported us. They've been a positive force in virtually every good thing that has happened on this campus since its groundbreaking over 50 years ago. There's no way to know how many students have been helped over the years, but I know that their impact has been great. I can visualize Jasmine sitting at the banquet hall at St. Crispin's helping draw bingo numbers when the Morans annually hosted state dinners for our athletic teams, complete with games and prizes. And Jasmine's passion in helping students was most evident in the financial support provided to our nursing students. For decades, she and Melvin have awarded scholarships to students pursuing degrees in nursing, and when those students finished their academic programs, they would take them to a private luncheon before commencement and provide them with graduation gifts, purchasing their first uniforms. What a lovely example of their thoughtfulness. I hope that during her struggles with health, both hospital stays and home health care, that some of those nurses from the SSC nursing program that she had passionately supported over the years were able to provide help to her. Last Saturday, when I spoke to the family, I asked if it would be okay to email our employees, boards, and retirees and share on social media with our community and friends about Jasmine's passing. They graciously agreed that that would be fine. I immediately began receiving messages from literally hundreds of people who wanted to express their condolences and share how much Jasmine had meant to them. I became addicted to reading those over the weekend. I knew what an impact Jasmine had been on my life, and I quickly realized that she made many others also feel her love and experience her kindness. There were notes about the lives she touched, the special place she held in people's hearts, and her love for Melvin and for Seminole. She was described repeatedly as a legend, unassuming, generous, kind, highly respected, a grand lady, an angel on earth, an iconic treasure, and one of the sweetest people someone said they had ever met. A former student from Zimbabwe who came to then Seminole Junior College wrote me to say he had wonderful memories of Melvin and Jasmine taking him under their wings when he first arrived in Seminole. He stated, "Jasmine was a wonderful, gracious lady with style, charisma, and laughter. She will always be in my heart. Prayers and blessings from Johannesburg." Truly, her impact is seen and felt across this campus, the community, the state, and the world. Jasmine was among my dearest friends, strongest supporters, and loudest cheerleaders. I will miss her kind notes, sweet hugs and kisses, and endearing smiles. My heart breaks for Melvin, Marilyn, Elisa, David, and their families, and for all of us who will miss her terribly and cherish her memory. To steal from a comment made by my friend, the Honorable Jerry Askins, I am a better person for having known Jasmine Moran, and the world is a better place for the life she lived. Thank you.
Lana, your wish was granted. We encountered several folks in the healthcare field who have received wonderful education here, and they came up and let us know that, and we are so appreciative. We too have received hundreds of emails and messages and Facebook posts and such in the last few days, and I want to share just a few of those. I'll sneak them in between speakers. The first one is from cousin Catherine Sourwine in Montreal, Canada. She says, "I remember her fondly as the gracious and vivacious woman she was. very positive, and always ready to please everyone. She also was a trooper and carried on the past years in spite of her various ailments. I remember once that she had just come out of the hospital and Mel had a function to attend. She insisted to be at his side for the occasion. It's now my privilege to introduce Mary Ann Hill, who is joined by Marta Mattingly, the leading volunteers of the Seminole Humane Society. They both shared Mom's passion for animals. Please join us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mary Ann Hill, the president of the Seminole Humane Society, and it is indeed my great honor to speak about Jasmine and the Seminole Humane Society. As you know, Jasmine's passion was animals, for sure. I first became acquainted with her in 2008 when we began work together as members of the Seminole Humane Society board. Her love of animals was inspiring to all of us. She was a wonderful and fearless leader and was the heart and soul of the Humane Society from the very beginning. In these early days, the Seminole Humane Society took on individual animals, providing them with medical care and then finding them forever homes. Because we didn't have a facility at that time, we were limited on how many we could help. In 2014, Jasmine decided it was time to fund an upgrade to the animal shelter. After quite a bit of research on what was needed, construction began. At that point, the Humane Society became interested in running the shelter ourselves. In August of 2015, construction on the facility was completed and management of the shelter was turned over to the Seminole Humane Society. We were beyond thrilled because this was the culmination of a dream. Now we had a place to house our animals. Since the time we took over running the shelter, we have found forever homes for many, many animals. And as Lana said, there's no way to know how many animals have been helped by Jasmine. In December of 2015, we had a grand opening and ribbon cutting. The community was invited to an open house to show off all the new improvements and see all the wonderful animals. Jasmine, of course, was the featured speaker for the dedication. I was able to record a short 2-minute video of that moment, and I think you will all enjoy seeing it and hearing what Jasmine had to say.
To name names, and I'm going to be a little bit speechy this morning, or this afternoon. I'm going to say to you, why did God put all the animals in the ark instead of people? Innocence, and he wanted us to also respect and love them, as he does. And this is the facility we're trying to build, to respect and love the animals. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't respect them and don't love them, and I'm a meat eater, so don't get it all wrong. But I do respect, I would not hurt anything without a reason. And I want everyone to know that, to me, it's very important that we show love to the animals we have. Why do we adopt animals? Because we want to take them home, and we want our children to grow up with animals. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think more and more children should grow with animals. It gives them compassion and understanding. But let me pose another question. Why do we take our animals and lock them in the backyard or chain them in the backyard in the middle of winter and summer, all through the heat, all through the cold weather, and do nothing? Maybe because we took them home and we misunderstood. When you take a baby home from the hospital, is it toilet trained? I don't think so. Do you expect the dog to be toilet trained when you take it home, or the cat? It's coming into a new facility. It's scared too. It's now being adopted by a family it doesn't know, doesn't understand. Therefore, it wants to be loved. That's all it's asking. So you take it home and it wets on your best rug. That best rug should have been rolled up for a few days until the animal got used to the house and knowing that it's supposed to go outside when it wants to. And that's all going to take time and a little bit of compassion and understanding. But most people take them home, turn them loose, and they wet on their rug or scratch their sofa or whatever. and therefore they are now banished to the backyard.
I had more, but we had to stop it. We could be here all day. But that was Jasmine at her finest. But isn't it wonderful to hear from Jasmine herself how much she loved animals? She wanted us all to love and respect them as much as she did. If not for Jasmine Moran, the Seminole Humane Society would not exist, nor would we have found homes for hundreds of animals through the Seminole Animal Shelter. It is our mission to continue the work that she started. Thank you.
I now invite Terry Robertson, joined by Jessica Worley, Brenda Whitley, and Opal Merrill. They are among Jasmine's wonderful caregiving team and friends, and we are so happy to have them tell you what it's like to really know her in a very personal way.
Hi. This is Braxton. He was a friend of Jasmine's too. I'm speaking for all of us up here. Sorry. And we all have different stories. One of Brenda's was on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, she would stop by McDonald's to buy pancakes for Melvin and Jasmine. Melvin was given his pancakes on a plate with butter and syrup on the side. Jasmine, however, was given her pancakes cut into bite-sized pieces, pre-buttered, and dressed with any kind of red jam available. Brenda explained a few times where the pancakes came from, but Jasmine would still voice her appreciation every time. "You make the best pancakes, Brenda." Jasmine loved telling us her stories. A favorite story of Brenda's is about the start of Jasmine and Melvin's honeymoon. Jasmine had boarded the ship and was at the rail as the ship left the port that Melvin was still standing on. The port where Melvin was on the telephone, unaware that the ship had set sail. Thankfully, the captain came upon a frantic Jasmine, who quickly pointed out her very important problem. Melvin had all of her paperwork, including her passport. The captain turned that ship around so Jasmine wouldn't spend a honeymoon alone. Although after that incident, a honeymoon for one was very tempting. Jessica fondly remembers the times that Melvin called her because Jasmine was having a bad day. Jess would make Jasmine some tea, put some cookies on a plate, and take Jasmine out onto her patio. The tea, nature, and the company of her friend always changed Jasmine's mood. Jess also remembers so many little things, like Jasmine at the kitchen sink, hand washing the dishes, singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And now a recipe for you that Jess's family calls the Jasmine. Toast 2 pieces of rye and butter one side on each. Add Havarti cheese, tomatoes, and avocados. That's the Jasmine. Try it, it's delicious. Opal can be regarded as the new kid on the block. She has been working for Melvin and Jasmine for only a couple of years, but she is loved and appreciated just as much as the rest of us. Opal writes, "When I first started working for Miss Jasmine, it was just a job. But then I got to know her through her stories and by reading her book. I learned what a wonderful person she was. She was talented, gifted, and kind. She helped so many people and animals. I never saw her judge anyone's character, and if she did, she kept it to herself. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with her. I'm coming away with a more positive attitude, a more giving person, and a promise to practice kindness as often as possible. Not only is her passing her friends and families lost, but her communities and society as a whole. Jasmine will be greatly missed, and I love her." As for me, knowing Jasmine for over half my life, I can't come up with a favorite story. Jasmine and I were so like-minded and could fill the afternoon with exploits of our children, our love of nature, and our exasperations of husbands. Every single memory is what I'll hold dear, like her happiness as she sat on her patio, enjoying the warm breeze on her face, on her joy at watching an array of wildlife in her back garden from her dining room table, her delight at the antics of the many raccoons that come to eat at their home twice a day, every day, without fail, and the wonder on her face as a monarch butterfly flutters and walks on her finger. As a wildlife rescuer, I had the great pleasure to introduce her to a variety of young animals before I took them to a wildlife rehabilitation specialist. She was amazed at the feel of a baby beaver's tail. She laughed at a 3-month-old raccoon diligently styling my hair. And as much as she taught me about life, I took great pleasure to have taught her a little bit about the wildlife she's met. She loved learning more of nature's children and always wanted to help in my cause by offering gas money, a blanket, or a box. And as I say goodbye to my sweetest friend, I can see her now in heaven, loving on her pets that went before her and championing for the animals that she had to leave behind. And finally, and I speak for the 4 of us, to Melvin, Marilyn, Elisa, and David, thank you for giving us the privilege of taking care of Jasmine during her last days on earth. It's an honor that we will always hold close to our hearts. We will keep you also in our hearts and in our prayers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mom's Team. We have a text message group where it's Mom's Team, and we just have the best team in the world. Any sport, anything you can imagine doesn't have a team as great as this one. Millicent Martin and Jasmine Moran were born just days apart at the same hospital in England. Now, you likely know Millicent as Gertrude Moon from the TV show Frasier, and she sends her message from California today via Zoom. So please turn your attention to the screens.
Jasmine and I first met in 1952 when we were performing in South Pacific at the Drury Lane Theatre in London, starring Mary Martin singing "Gonna Wash That Man Right Out of My Hair." And there was this bevy of beautiful choreens behind her singing along, and Jasmine and I were 2 of them. And would you believe we had a chorus boy called Sean Connery? Well, we were having a wonderful time in the show, and one day I kind of noticed that she was being squired around London by this young, handsome gentleman, Mel, who I believe was with one of the US Air Forces. Well, we were all thrilled for her, you know, but then she suddenly said that they were getting married. She was leaving the show and she was going to go and live in the United States. Well, of course, we missed her like mad. But the funny thing is that a few years later, I did the same thing when I met my husband, Mark, when I was performing in Side by Side by Sondheim on Broadway. So with the 2 of us now being in America, we kept in touch for the last 30 years, you know, and the way we did it was always calling each other, or if able, we would travel to go and see them and say hello. And I remember having one lovely, lovely visit to Oklahoma with Mark, and I think it was to celebrate Mel and Jasmine's 60th wedding anniversary. I'm not sure, but Jasmine and I were going to sing a song, Bosom Buddies, which was very apt. I mean, I just loved doing the number with her. It was a comedy number, and of course, Jasmine nailed it. So now, in the few days before Jasmine's passing, we sent the lyrics of one of the South Pacific songs to Mel to whisper into Jasmine's ear. It goes. Some enchanted evening,
You may see a stranger across a crowded room, and somehow you'll know. They certainly did.
Our next speaker is Kay Levy, Board and Executive Committee member of the Jasmine Moran Children's Museum and a dear member of our extended family. Kay?
Thank you, Marilyn. It's been my honor to be part of the Jasmine Moran Children's Museum team from the very beginning. I've always admired their dream to provide this experience for children, and they have been coming from around the world to see it. When I was asked to speak today, however, I couldn't pull myself away from my own personal views to share about Jasmine. It's been a pleasure. I have had the pleasure of knowing Jasmine and the honor of calling her family for the past 38 years. It has been a comfort knowing that we lived just a few minutes from each other all of this time. Jasmine was always so much fun to be around. She was a master storyteller who never ceased to amaze us with her life stories. We would be in rapt attention till finally we had to break up the party at the end of the evening. Being with Jasmine at a public event always felt like being with royalty, even though she was an extremely down-to-earth lady. So many memories have come to mind that make me smile, most of which are just small but very special. I love that years ago, Jasmine wrote movie reviews for our local newspaper, the Seminole Producer, on the current movies that were being shown in town. I thought it was cute that she warned parents if there was any inappropriate language. I love that she sent me many handwritten thank you notes and cards over the years for even the littlest things, many of which I have kept and treasured. I can still see her handwriting. She was so thoughtful. I love that Jasmine always greeted me with that big smile and a hug and a kiss that I will forever miss. I love that Jasmine frequently gave motherly advice like, don't forget to wear a scarf around your neck when it's cold outside. If your neck is warm, you will not get sick. We shared a love of hot tea at any time of the day or night, winter or summer. I love that Jasmine's matzo ball soup is now legendary with my family. They're still talking about how delicious it was, and I have promised my son to make your version from now on. My daughter Lauren reminded me that Jasmine used to always keep a bag of cat food in the back of her car, just in case she found an animal in need. She used to say that just about any animal will eat cat food. One memory I will never forget, and this may come out sounding very silly, but one memory I'll never forget was at the Jasmine Moran Children's Museum years ago. This was not as a board member, but as a gardener. My dear friend, Darlene Wallace, and I had the pleasure of creating and maintaining the gardens and landscaping around the entrance, the parking lots, and the museum building itself. This started as a community service project for the Master Gardener program and soon blossomed into our small landscaping business. After spending many days planning and designing and building these gardens, we discovered that we had gophers undermining, literally, our hard work. We were trying to decide the best way to deal with this problem when we were instructed that Jasmine would not allow any gophers to come to any harm. So we solved the problem and honored her wishes by putting little whirligigs all throughout the garden to hopefully discourage and shoo away these little animals. For those of you that don't know what those are, the little spinning flowers or so forth on the stakes that vibrate. We thought, well, it's a children's museum. They might think those are cute. Problem solved and wishes honored. So Jasmine not only looked after cats, dogs, horses, and all the wildlife that surrounded her beautiful backyard, but the gophers around the museum as well. These are but a few fond memories of Jasmine. There are so many more. I will always admire her for being such a strong woman. She was an inspiration to me and so many others. Jasmine, your strong spirit and timeless words of wisdom and boundless love will live on forever. Thank you for being such an angel on earth. You will always be right here next to my heart.
Thank you so much, Kay. And I tell you that I know many of you have experienced this, that Kay shows up with exactly what you need in the moment. And it's just wonderful. And I know Mom loved that so much. I want to share a message from Talita Santos Moretti. She was an exchange student from Brazil in our home, and she was so excited to have an adopted grandmother in Jasmine. And so she wrote this: I am really saddened to learn of the passing of Grandma. I hope you feel my warm hug from here in Brazil to there in Seminole for all of you. Karen Anson, Jasmine's biographer, helped me so much with all of the photos that you saw in the prelude before the program here and with Mom's obituary. And so we're so excited to have Karen come up and share a few words. Karen.
Well, I worked with Jasmine for several years, helping her with her autobiography. We spent long golden afternoons talking about peace and war, love. She sang to me. She recited poetry. We confided in each other, secrets that were never meant for the book. We sat in her bay window overlooking her garden and watched a raccoon come every afternoon for food that she put out for him. And we saw birds of every color. Her cats would twine around our legs, and her dog would sleep on the mat. And at 4 o'clock every day, she made tea. It was really a magical time. We all know about Jasmine's causes, and I think I was one of her causes. I'm pretty sure there were many like me. She told me that she had a keen sixth sense, and she could intuit things. Whenever she saw a need, or thought she did, you'd find a card in the mail, sometimes with a check, sometimes with cash. Her generosity was the biggest thing about Jasmine Moran. We know that she loved animals and children, but what was driven home to me in our talks was her love of her family. She loved Melvin and those children of hers. She could recite your many accomplishments verbatim, and you have many. But what she was most proud of was not the endeavors, but your characters, that you embraced the principles that were important to her: kindness, fairness, generosity, tenacity, compassion, that you speak out against wrongs and help others in need. As much as she loved the Children's Museum and the animal shelter and all her other causes, she believed you were her masterpiece. And through you and your children, she will reach as many children, as many people and animals as she will through the museum and the shelter. You will carry out her legacy. She told me her philosophy of life. Life is like a flower. For a long time, the bulb is in the ground. Then it shoots up green leaves. And then a daffodil or a tulip blooms, and it brings perfume and color to the world for however long God wants. And then it fades and dies. She said, I hope I bring joy like that. Not everyone does. Oh, Jasmine, you colored our world like that garden in front of your house, completely natural, as God designed it himself, with every color in the universe, sometimes a little wild, but always beautiful and always inspiring. And we will never forget you.
Thank you so much, Karen. From Davina Skedzun, Jasmine's younger sister in Germany, comes this message. Jasmine saved my life as a child during the war in England, and she guarded over me her entire life. I cannot bear the thought of losing her. I am so lucky to have been her sister. And now I'd like to invite up Marcy Donahoe, the Executive Director and the CEO of the Jasmine Moran Children's Museum, and Jasmine's longtime friend. Marcy.
This is going to be tough, but I can do it. Jasmine's with me. Today we celebrate her. She would be so pleased that all of you are here, but she would say, this is so not necessary. It's much ado about nothing, right? That was her way. Humility at its finest. The many conversations that she and I had were quite often about her childhood and time spent in the theater. Her childhood was somewhat similar to what we see today, what is happening in Ukraine. She heard bombs going off. She saw shattered buildings. She was in bomb shelters. She boarded a train and left her mother for a time, along with her sister Davina, who was younger than Jasmine at the time. All the while, they were not knowing when they would be able to return home. Now, can you imagine going through that at a tender age? What breaks my heart is some of the scenes that I have seen in Ukraine, and I saw a child walking through without anybody with him. And I thought of Jasmine. How sad. Jasmine's life was filled with treasure and triumph, never complaining, always concerned and many times fighting for those less fortunate, animals included. She was not impressed with her notoriety or being the wife of an Oklahoma icon, Melvin Moran. She didn't even want the museum named after her. We had an event here at the college in a different area one evening, and it was pretty much when we were getting ready to open the museum. We had a wonderful dinner, we had speakers, and then we went to the Children's Museum. And she was dressed in her finest, and she was giving people tours and telling them this exhibit and this exhibit. And I looked at her after a while, and she had her shoes off. And I thought, oh. And I went up to her and I said, Jasmine, are you okay? And she said, yes, my feet just hurt, and I didn't want to wear these high heels. And she was very comfortable in that setting. To describe Jasmine, words that come to my mind are kind, philanthropic, genuine, smart, sincere, talented, loving, and this list could go on, as evidenced by the speakers prior to me. But the one adjective that describes Jasmine best to me is courageous. As many of you know, for the past few years, she had encountered many physical constraints. She never complained, but only to say when asked how she felt, she would only answer with, you don't want to know, it was just been one of those days. And that was all she would say about how her day went, with a smile on her sweet face and a twinkle in those eyes of hers. No mention of pain or discomfort. It's just been a day. She knew the severity of her condition and could have easily dwelled on that and all that ailed her. But no, it's just been one of those days. This tiny lady left a lasting and treasured impression on us all. When you left her side after an event, dinner, or car ride, you felt better, you gauged your ailments against her ailments, and realized you had nothing to complain about. At least that's the way I looked at it. I have many stories that make me smile when I think of her. As a member of a London play, as Millicent Martin had referred to earlier, Sean Connery was part of the cast. She told me he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, but he sure had some pretty legs. And she would do that, that twinkle. Those of you who know her, she would do that twinkle. It was so sweet. She loved to sing whether it was in the car or even when a song came on the intercom while dining in a restaurant, she would quietly sing along. One of my favorite memories is when the Children's Museum held a tribute recognizing Bart Connor and Nadia Comaneci for their work with children. We had never had entertainment per se, but knowing that Jasmine's close friend, Millicent Martin, mother to Daphne Moon and Fraser, would be visiting, the two got together, wanted to sing Getting to Know You. It was a most touching experience to see these two longtime friends connect again through music, and I was blessed to be their accompanist. It was an absolute honor to have them both in my home for practice, and it was delightful to hear them banter back and forth in a friendly manner, of course, as to how each one should sing their part. We laughed, we sang, and we enjoyed great conversation. Last Saturday, when Marilyn called to let me know what we all knew was soon to happen, but still not quite ready for those words, I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to attend the Children's National Honor Choir, at which my granddaughter Amelia was a member. Amelia was by my side when I received the call. So she could tell I was upset. We went to a corner. She cried, and I talked about Jasmine and what music meant to her. And I asked her, Amelia, of the 8 songs that you're singing today, is there a song that you think Jasmine would really like? And she said, oh, yes. With no hesitation, she says, the song When I Was Singing. And I said, well, would you please think about Jasmine as you are singing that song? She said, I will, Mia, I will. Well, I was in the second row, and I was watching Amelia sing her songs. To me, she was the only child in the room. And when that song came on, I saw tears coming down Amelia's eyes along with my tears. I would like to read and dedicate these lyrics of When I Sing for Jasmine, because I feel certain Jasmine is singing with full lung capacity, standing up straight as a member of Heaven's choir. Here are the lyrics to When I Sing. When I sing, the music fills my soul. When I sing, the music makes me whole. I'll sing with all my heart, and I will sing for all my life, for I feel so alive and free when I sing. Each note becomes a part of me, a beautiful, sweet melody. The song is part of what I am and who I'll always be. For when I sing, the music fills my soul. When I sing, the music makes me whole. I'll sing with all my heart, and I'll sing for all my life, for I feel so alive and free when I sing. I feel so alive when I sing. In closing, Jasmine left a legacy for children of all ages through the Jasmine Moran Children's Museum, the countless entities she supported, and all the families she helped. We closed the museum early today so that the staff could attend and learn a little bit more about this precious soul. I know that they will take good care of Jasmine Moran Children's Museum. Her love for her family, for her children, for those in need, including the animals, serve as a footprint for all of us to embrace and should follow. She will forever be remembered for all things good in this world. And the greatest gift, beside my family, given to me, was to be entrusted to carry on her vision for children and how they should be treated and how they should have activities that enrich their educational lives. Thank you very much.
After Marcy's wonderful remarks, of course we should have beautiful music. And so I am now going to invite renowned pianist Peter Simon and longtime friend of Jasmine. And he has prepared 2 short musical selections that are particularly meaningful to Mom.
I just want to first say it's an honor for me to be here. And I've had so many wonderful experiences here. And as we know, the Moran family believes in quality of education and quality of life for people of all ages. And they helped me become an artist in residence at this fine college and provided the funding for this wonderful piano. So I'd like to play 2 short pieces. The first by Franz Liszt, called A Consolation Meant to Console. I also like to say that a quote from the great German philosopher Goethe, that music begins where the word ends. The last time I played here, I had Jasmine come up and sing a song, an English song from World War II, very popular. I'd like to play this for you now. I'm not much of a singer, so please bear with me, but I'm sure, I would imagine Jasmine is singing this as well. This is for the Moran family. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do. To the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's now my pleasure to invite my brother, David Moran, the son of Jasmine, and he's going to share some special memories with you.
On behalf of all of us, thank you all for coming and helping honor my mother's memory. I thought I'd start with a little anecdote that tells a lot about my mother's fierce devotion to her family and her intolerance for even the smallest injustices. In 2003, I was arguing in front of the U.S. Supreme Court for the first time, and I brought my parents along to see the spectacle. And as many of you know, Clarence Thomas was famous for almost 2 decades for not asking a question of any of the attorneys arguing before him. And in fact, the justices have reclining chairs, and so he would lean back and stare at the ceiling for the duration of the oral argument. Well, Mother saw that and came to the conclusion that Justice Thomas was sleeping during my argument. And so after the argument, after Mom and Dad had returned here to Oklahoma, I called them, and Dad told me that Mom was outraged by what she thought was Justice Thomas's sleeping during my argument, and that she had drafted a letter to Chief Justice Rehnquist telling him that he should get rid of that laggard from the court. Dad said that he had prevented Mom from sending the letter, and I'm very grateful for that. My mother was a really extraordinary woman, and you all know that. And I just want to highlight some of the facts from her biography that illustrate the point. By all objective measures, her level of education was poor. She left school in her early teens, about the American equivalent of the 8th grade, to pursue a career as an actress, singer, and dancer. And yet, you've heard little excerpts of her speaking. She had a rich vocabulary. She spoke perfect English, Queen's BBC English for her entire life. I don't remember her as a reader. I really can't call up any recollections from my childhood of her sitting down to read a book for herself for pleasure. And yet, she was absolutely determined that the three of us would learn to read early and that we would become enthusiastic and voracious readers, which we all are. So many of my earliest memories are my mom reading to me as I was in the tub, as I was at the table, as I was going to bed. She was determined that we would become well educated. It was clear that we would all go to college. It was just that it was all taken for granted, even though she was not well educated herself. And it was clear that we would all speak English well, just like she did. She grew up in an urban area, a very poor urban area, a poor suburb of London, which is now really part of London. It was an area in which there was no wildlife. It was an area in which very few people would have had pets. And yet, as we've heard again today, over and over, she became a tremendous lover and defender of animals, not just pets, but any kind of animal, whether wildlife, gophers we even heard. She would defend and protect them. And she made Marilyn, Elisa, and me into fierce defenders and lovers of wildlife ourselves and animals. And we are eternally grateful to her for that. She lived in a broken home. Her father abandoned the family when she was 5 years old, when there were 2 little girls and a third on the way, right on the eve of World War II, leaving the 3 children destitute, leaving my mother's mother, my grandmother, with a pile of debt. And yet, Mom never forgot what it was like to be poor. Mom remembered that the Salvation Army helped keep the family alive during World War II, while her mother worked multiple jobs trying to feed the family, but supplemented with help from the Salvation Army. And so Mother never forgot the less fortunate. And one of the things that she tried so hard to instill in the 3 of us was to remember the less fortunate. And my father, of course, helped in those efforts tremendously. So every Christmas, we would help serve food to the less fortunate here in Seminole, because, of course, being Jews, we didn't celebrate Christmas ourselves, but that's how we spent Christmas, is helping others. And there's so many other ways that we've heard about in which Mother was determined to help the less fortunate, to help people who were going through what she went through as a little girl. So she truly was a remarkable woman, and my sisters and I just can't be grateful enough for what she and my father tried so hard, and maybe not always successfully, but tried so hard to instill in us. And I'm grateful to them eternally, and I'm grateful to my father that he stopped her from writing Chief Justice Rehnquist. Thank you.
Our mom was so proud of David, and he has made such a tremendous difference in so many lives as the director of the Innocence Clinic in Michigan at the University of Michigan, resulting in the exoneration of people who never should have been in prison. That just made Mom smile so much. And I'm now thrilled to introduce my sister and the middle daughter of Jasmine. She is a fierce and accomplished civil rights lawyer in Denver, and that made Mom really happy too. Elisa.
Maybe 10 years ago, I sat down and wrote my mother a letter of thank you, listing the various things I was grateful for. I won't bore you with the multiple pages of that letter, but I did want to highlight just a few of the things that I was so grateful for. Mom, I'm grateful that I grew up in Seminole, Oklahoma, where it felt like you knew everyone and everyone knew you. I'm grateful to know someone who so genuinely loves all animals. While you may know she was an animal lover, many of you did not know until today that she single-handedly paid for the Seminole shelter to be rebuilt and remodeled. In addition, she set up a fund that will support the Seminole Humane Society for decades to come. Mom was also constantly getting phone calls from far and wide about horses in a field that seemed like they weren't being fed, or a dog who was tied up in the cold, or an abandoned cat with kittens. She never said no. She either went out and took care of the problem herself, or she made sure it was dealt with. Mom, I'm grateful as a kid that I knew who was the soft touch in the house for the many stray dogs and cats that I dragged home. She'd literally make us carry the poor animal door to door around our entire neighborhood to make sure it didn't belong to anybody. And of course, we hoped that no one would claim it because we knew that we would then get to keep it. That was how we got all of our family dogs and cats all through our childhood. And there were many. In addition to that, we had Pancho the guinea pig and Humphrey the parakeet. I am going to tell you one quick story about Humphrey the parakeet. Mom had prepared a dinner when we had guests coming, and our parakeet was very smart. He could open his own cage. He took the moment that we all sat down to dinner to let himself out of his cage, fly to the table, and run through the mashed potatoes. It was the one and only time I ever saw my mother mad at an animal. The good news is Humphrey survived the incident. Mom, I'm grateful for the themed birthday parties that we had every year, with you painstakingly making themed decorations, themed food, and a themed cake. And for the really weird party games that you invented, including Sniff, which, while it sounds really bizarre, she would put various items in jars and we had to pass them around and try and guess what they were. I'm sure most of my friends went home and tried to explain that to their friends and to their parents when they got home, but it was much more fun than it actually sounded. Mom, I'm grateful for 4 o'clock tea every single afternoon after school. I'm grateful for the home-cooked dinner that we got pretty much every night of my life until I went away to college. I'm grateful that you drove me to Shawnee every week for a year for advanced swimming and life-saving classes, even though you never knew how to swim yourself. I'm grateful for all the debate tournaments you drove us to all over the state, many where we had to leave well before dawn to arrive in time. Mom, I'm grateful for the roots that you gave us, learning about our Scottish heritage and all the stories of the brave Scottish ancestors dating back to the early 1800s, and not hiding that we actually had a sheep rustler among them who got hanged. I'm grateful for the time that you came to school in a kilt and showed sword dancing to my class. The girls were all fascinated by your kilt and by the dancing, and the boys were very excited about the fact you had brought a real-life sword to school. You were a hit. Mom, I so appreciate the fact that you taught me the very British phrases like hell's bells and buckets of blood, and don't get your knickers in a twist. Surprisingly, both of those have actually come in handy being a trial lawyer. I'm grateful for our Jewish roots as well. You made sure we knew Jewish traditions. We lit candles every Friday night and said the prayers. You and Dad made sure that we had a Jewish education by literally building a synagogue where there was none, and organizing in the community for us to know other Jewish kids from surrounding towns. We had seders every year, and we fasted every Yom Kippur. As the only Jewish kids in Seminole, all of our friends got to have Christmas and Santa Claus. Mom, thank you for the Hanukkah fairy, who came the first night of Hanukkah and filled up the empty pillowcase that we left at the end of our beds. We loved the Hanukkah fairy so much. And thank you for teaching us, by example, the meaning of tzedakah and tikkun olam. You and Dad never failed to take the path of kindness towards others, cooking meals for Christmas, starting a scholarship for nurses, buying and delivering food to those in the Seminole community who were in need. You set hundreds of these examples without words, and we've never forgotten that. And Mom, thank you for giving us wings. It was never a question that we were going to go to college. We honestly never even had a conversation about it. We just knew we were all going. You encouraged all of us to do well in school, even though you didn't get the opportunity to do so yourself. You wanted us to each go to school out of state so that we would have a taste of something besides where we had grown up, and we each did attend school out of state. When I wanted to go to law school, there was never a question. You and Dad happily supported my dream to do that, even though it was not something that many girls did back in those days. You made me feel like I could do anything I put my mind to. When I met my darling husband, Gary, you welcomed him into the family and always wanted to keep up with our daughters, Michelle and Nicole. When Michelle got married a few years ago in Colorado, despite your difficult health issues, you came to Colorado to the wedding, and you even gamely went up a very high mountain to watch my daughter marry her darling husband, Eric. These things in later years weren't easy for you, and we so appreciate that you made such an effort. We're sorry you didn't get to see Michelle's baby boy, due in a few weeks. I know you were trying to hold out for that. Mom, you gave Marilyn, David, and me each the gift of making us believe in our own strengths and the courage to follow our own paths, and the knowledge that you had our backs throughout our lives. Those were priceless gifts that you gave to each of us, and I'll cherish and be grateful for those forever. So one last time, Mom, thank you.
Two weeks earlier, I was with Mom and had a real privilege to have a deep conversation with her. And I said, Mom, at this time in your life, what is it that you still want to do? What's left? What's undone? What kinds of things are really important to you? And Mom took just a split second, smile came over her lips, and she said, love. I just want everybody to love each other. So I'm going to share with you 4 love stories that I learned from Mom. The first one is that love is kindness. One of my very earliest memories is of a student in my class who was not well loved. In fact, she was kind of unpopular. But she passed out these birthday invitations to all the girls in the class and was really excited about the upcoming day. Well, the mean girls got together and decided to prank her. So they decided that they would just fawn all over her and say they were coming to the party and they were really excited about it, but they had all agreed that they would not go. I was so upset about this, and I went home and I told Mom about it. And my mother, as you all know, can be so enraged on behalf of other people who are not being treated well. So she said, we are going to go and buy the most extravagant birthday gift that we can possibly afford, and you are going to that party, even if it means that you risk your own reputation with the popular crowd. Well, I went, and I was the only one, but we had one of the most delightful days of our lives, both of us, and remained lifetime friends. Love is kindness. My second story is that love completes the puzzle. Now, if you ever came to our household, you know that puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, were going on the dining room table all the time. And I love puzzles today as a result. What I learned, and it was really amazing to me, was how you could have these individual puzzle pieces, and they didn't look like they would fit anything. But if you worked at it hard enough, if you brought them together, it would reveal a beautiful picture. Now, those problem-solving skills are with me today, and I use them all the time. But more importantly, what I learned from this is that you can bring individual groups, individual people, individual resources together that don't seem to fit. And when you bring them together, they can do really great things. And they do those great things even though they didn't look like they belonged together. But when you do this, when you bring them together, you create love. And love completes that puzzle. My third story is that love never lets go. On the night before Mom passed, she was in a pretty bad way, and I had the night shift, and our terrific hospice nurse came up and put her arm around my shoulder and she said, "Are you ready? I think Mom's going to go in just a few hours." And so I had to go to Mom and say to her, "Mom, this is up to you now. It's your choice. You're in control and you decide." And Mom did. She wanted Dad to have a really good night's rest. And so she decided she was going to wait until Dad was fully rested the next morning, holding her hand and stroking her hair. And at 9:52, she said, "It's time." Love never lets go. And that picture of love, of Mom and Dad holding hands, will be with me forever as this wonderful picture of a love story that never ends. My fourth story is that the language of love is music. And all of us were so blessed to grow up in a home where there was beautiful music playing all of the time. Mom made sure that we learned music, that we learned to sing, even though none of us were any good at it, but that we did learn to sing. And she wanted to pass that gift of music on to her, not only children, but now grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And so I want to share with you a video that the Jasmine's granddaughter put together, Julie Townsend, and it is Mom teaching her great-grandchildren to sing. Please take a look at the screen.
Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no care. Me and my teddy bear, we play and play all day. I love my teddy bear. He's got one eye and got no hair, but I love my teddy bear. We play and play all day. Every night he's with me when I climb up the stair, and by my bed he listens until I say my prayer. Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no care. Me and my teddy bear just play and play all day. Good night.
Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no cares. Me and my teddy bear, we play and play all day. I love my teddy bear, he's got one eye and has no hair. But I love my teddy bear, we play and play all day. Every night he's with me when I climb up the stairs. By my side he's with me when I say my prayers. Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no care. But me and my teddy bear just play and play all day. Good night.
Four great love stories. Love is kindness. It is kindness to those unattractive teddy bears. Love completes the puzzle. It brings together people who normally wouldn't be together, just as Mom has brought all of you together, all of us, for good, to do good. Love never lets go. We hold hands, and they feel sometimes that they may be separated in this life, but it's just for a short while until the next. And the language of love is music. And so it will be music to Mom's ears if you take these love stories and apply them to your own life, and that we help Mom get her final wish, which is that we each love every other person. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand and join me, but before I do want to make one announcement, and that is that the seats that you see over here, Dad and the immediate family will be over here when we conclude, and you're welcome to come up and we'd love to just visit. But I ask you now to stand. And on the screen, you will see the lyrics that I know Mom will love more than ever for all of us to sing. And so let's join together. Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no care. Me and my teddy bear, we play and play all day. I love my teddy bear. He's got one eye and got no hair. But I love my teddy bear. We play and play all day. Every night he's with me when I climb up the stair. And by my bed he listens until I say my prayer. Me and my teddy bear have no worries, have no care. Me and my teddy bear just play and play all day. Good night.